lot of conversation around Meg Thee Stallion's music moving units to the degree that she should be doing at this juncture in her career. And I just want to talk a little bit about it. I'm not your messy fave. I actually love music, and you know, I may talk about Meg's personal life a little bit in this video because I did watch her documentary, and I feel like now that I've seen her documentary, it's actually kind of relevant to why I feel like her music isn't landing with a broader audience in the way that it should. Like, she should be a lot further in her music sales than she is. But let's start with the facts, okay? Let's start with the motherfucking facts of the case, okay? So I have my notes. I'm always gonna have my iPad on me, honey, because I love having notes. And I love being able to reference things. Now, I'm just gonna be a talk straight through. We're gonna do our makeup, we're gonna talk straight through, and we're gonna get to the situation, okay? So firstly, let's start with the facts of the case, right? And the facts of the case is that Meg Thee Stallion is definitely one of the lyricists of this generation. And I think that goes without saying. Like, Meg Thee Stallion is a heavy hitter in the rap industry, in the global market, as evident by her concert sales. But even more so, she is a lyricist, right? Like, Meg Thee Stallion, you may not like her subject matter, but she's a lyricist nonetheless, right? Another thing I love about Meg Thee Stallion is she's a risk taker, and I feel like a lot of the girls kind of follow this same formula, and they don't take risks. And being a risk taker is something that's going to put you ahead of your peers a lot of the times. You know, see Doja Cat, see Nicki Minaj, see Tyler the Creator, see Kendrick Lamar, see these guys who kind of, you know, Kanye West, that kind of work outside the mold of what you would see as the go-to for a rap artist, right? Like, being a risk taker is so important. She's really an interesting person, and I think that helps her a lot. She has a lot of really interesting hobbies, like her love for cosplay and anime. Just as an example, her love for animals. She has a bunch of animals. She has a lot of interesting hobbies and just things that she loves and quirky things about herself. You know, she has a thing for like public health. You know, that's what she majored in school. And these things definitely kind of work in her favor as like a college grad, and all these different things that, you know, just make Megan more interesting to follow as a character in the rap game. Also, I will say, even though Meg is rich and famous, and she does not shy away from that, like we see our girl with her blinged out ice, her new fresh grills, and all the things, she's still relatable to most people. She still somehow finds a way to be relatable to the girls, and I think that that's so, so important. She's absolutely positively stunning. Meg Thee Stallion is an Africana goddess. She is an Africana Amazon. She has these bold, striking African features. This really beautiful skin. She's tall. She has this, you know, thick, fit body with like this very sought after like body shape. And, you know, she's thick in all the right places, and she's fit in all the right places, and she's just a stunning woman to behold. She's absolutely gorgeous, and obviously that also plays in her favor in the rap game. Her visuals are always very creative, whether it's her still visuals, whether they're her moving visuals. Meg Thee Stallion is such a creative girl. You can tell that she's a student of the game. You can tell that she's been a student of women like Missy Elliott. You can tell she's a student of rap music, and that also works so heavily in her favor because she comes up with these really fun, really dynamic visuals, whether it's on stage, whether it's her Instagram content, you know, her behind the scenes, her music videos. She just has a knack for having this really beautiful creative vision, and I love that about Megan Thee Stallion. And she moves tickets. Like, let's be real here. Like, her ticket sales move. Now, when it came to her tour, I think she did end up canceling some of her European leg of the tour. But in the United States, she was selling out tickets. Like, you know, she did really well with her first, you know, headline tour with her and Glorilla. I saw her in Madison Square Garden. They were phenomenal live. They brought out Cardi B. That was really fun. But she just has this like beautiful, beautiful stage presence about her. And that brings me to my next point. Meg Thee Stallion's live performances are so good. And if I'm being honest with you, like, I love when she gives us a show like she did at the Grammys, where she had like this, you know, stripped down, very like Black American history-esque with the tap dancing and the, you know, the fashions and the things like that. Like, you know, she incorporates a lot of culture, a lot of Black American culture into her creativity, which is also a really beautiful thing to see because she is a Southern girl. My favorite Meg Thee Stallion performances also actually though are the ones where she's literally just by herself on stage with a microphone. Like, Meg Thee Stallion is such that type of girl that she really doesn't need all the theatrics, the dancers, the, you know, the production value. Like, she doesn't really need it. You could literally give that girl a microphone, an empty background track, and she's going to give you a fucking show. Like, she's just so talented on stage, right? And I love that about Meg Thee Stallion. But why does it feel like Meg's music isn't landing the way it should? Because we know she makes fantastic music, right? Like, Meg makes good music. She's a great rapper. Why isn't her music landing at this level of superstardom? This girl is booked and busy. She sells out shows. She's everywhere. She's getting opportunities. She hosted the VMAs. Like, this girl went to the Met Gala. Like, she, despite everything that she experienced in her personal life over like the last 6 years, she's still been everywhere, right? And it's, you know, why isn't her music doing the same numbers or on par, like, numbers wise, as like somebody that's like a counterpart of hers, like a Doja Cat, right? Like, her and Doja Cat are in the same class, literally same talent level, same like level of stage presence. Like, they just, you know, two different versions of like a rapper, but, you know, nonetheless, they're superstars, right? Like, they're damn sure definitely in the top 5 of the rap girls. So why isn't her music moving on par with the girls that she's, you know, peers with, right? And I have a couple of different points, but we're going to talk through them as I do my makeup. So, number one, I don't think that Meg Thee Stallion has mastered the art of a cohesive project. And now I think, you know, you can obviously add in the fact that we're in the era of streaming, which has kind of impacted everybody's album sales to a degree, right? But you should still be able to energize your fan base to, you know, be able to, you know, sell a good amount of like physical sales or get enough streams to culminate physical sales, right? You still want to be able to energize your fan base to do those things. And so streaming definitely plays a part, but I just think that the replay value of her albums in whole is not as high as her peers, as some of her peers in the class of rapper she's in, because she's very high up in the game, right? And I think a lot of that has to do with the lack of cohesion in her albums. Megan has a lot of alter egos. She has a lot of different interests. She plays around with a lot of different sounds. And from what I feel like she does a little bit of everything on each album, and that can kind of confuse the message of a rap album, right? All my true purist rap fans, you know, like the foundations of a strong rap project that has true replay value, that you can go back and listen to the whole thing like cover to cover, like over and over again, right? Those type of albums, a lot of the times, most of the time, have like a cohesive property to it. It either has like a cohesive theme or a cohesive message or a cohesive sound that is just all encompassing, to where you're like, this project stands out alone, and you're spinning multiple songs on said project. You revisit that project often, right? And so I want to play a game where I rearrange the songs on Megan's last few albums. I think I did From Good News to the Present to Megan Act 2. And I rearranged the songs in a way that I think formatically, sonically, message-wise go together better, right? And I'll put everything on the screen. But if Meg was gonna do like a Tina Snow Freaky Girl album, right? Because you know Tina Snow is the character that's like super sex positive, really strong. She has like a lot of conversations about like pimping and you know, treating men and breaking pockets and all that type of stuff. So she was going to do that type of album. It should have been Outside, Body, Movie, Freaky Girls, Do It on the Tip with City Girls, Warning, Freaking, Downstairs DJ, Spin with, shit, I can't think of her name right now, Best Friend, Let Me See It, and Eat It, Victoria Monet. If she was going to do her crossover pop or party, like, you know, type of album, because, you know, all the rap girls do usually like a crossover album so that they can like do better on the charts and, you know, kind of tap into a different fan base, right? And usually it happens around their sophomore album. Now it's not law, you know, sometimes people do it in a different order, but for the most part, it's usually around your sophomore album. Now, she was going to do a crossover. It should have been Cry Baby, Don't Stop, Thought Shit, Pressurelicious, Scary, Sweet as Pie, Her, Budget, Figaro, Megan's Piano, Pipe Up, and What's New. Now, Meg also does this, you know, modern era, down south, raw rap music, right? And it's not just the rap sounds that Meg plays around with in her rap music. It's a lot of like jazz in there. You hear a little bluegrass. So she plays with a lot of Southern, you know, music forms in her music, right? And she does it in such a modern way. So if Meg was going to do her modern Southern rap album, right, it should have been Work That, Bless the Boo Freestyle, Let Me See It, Tina Snow, Tuned In Freestyle, Plan B, Southside Royalty Freestyle, Accent with Glorilla, Paper Together, Rock Steady with Flo Milli, Miami Blue, Bigger in Texas, Trippy Skit, and Opposite Day. I'm going to put these all on the screen so that you can see from what album it came from and how being on a different album would have made it more cohesive. And now the most current themes that we see from Megan, it's like, I call her Metamorphosis Meg, right? She's in this metamorphosis. There's a lot of themes of like rebirth and renewal with the big egg and the snake shedding its skin and the butterfly, like, you know, a lot of themes of like freedom and newness, right? And change, right? And with that, she's playing around with a lot of these like anime themes and cartoon and animation and cosplay and, you know, a lot of Japanese culture and pulling from some of her personal interests, right? So if we were going to do a Metamorphosis Meg album, we should have did NDA, Anxiety, Not Nice, b.a.s, Ataka Hot Girl, BOA, Mama Mushi, Cobra, Hiss, Red Wine, and Moody Girl, right? And again, I'm going to put these on the screen so you can see what I'm saying. Where did this song come from and what album it actually should have been on, which would have made it a lot more cohesive as a project for people to return to and really have like this overarching theme, message. The visuals are all a lot more cohesive in that way. The sounds are a lot more cohesive in that way. And I think she kind of misses the mark with the cohesion of her music. And let me tell you why. So I watched Meg Thee Stallion's documentary. And I really do suggest everybody go watch it. It's a very touching, very beautiful documentary. And I think I'll make a separate video about the documentary itself and the contents of it. But one thing that stood out to me the most is that her mom, who is also a Southern rapper, helped her with a lot of the, not only like, you know, back end stuff like management and things like that, but her mom did a lot of work with helping her perfect her craft with rapping, helps her with the cohesion of her albums, help her put together set lists, fashion choices. Like she pretty much ran everything past her mom, right? And in that way, you know, unfortunately, since she lost Miss Holly, may she rest in heavenly peace, I think there's this void of her trying to like figure out how as an artist, how to not only bring her ideas to life, but utilize her team to help her do that, right? And that can be very challenging when the biggest person on your team is your mother, who knows you better than anyone in the world, right? So Megan's mom can almost be like the second her, you know? Like, okay, I get what you're saying, Meg, let's do it like this. I get what you're trying to bring to life, let's do it like this, right? And her mom was such a big support for her. Again, may she rest in heavenly peace. And I think that losing her mom has definitely stifled a little bit of the execution of Meg's creative process. And that is so, so unfortunate, because grief is so complicated that this is one of those things where there isn't really like a remedy for, like, you know, her mom passed away. And so I think that is why we see like a lot of like, you know, struggle with the cohesion part of Meg's recent music releases. All right, and then so my next point is her rollouts are either too short, too long, or not strong enough. And it's unfortunate because Meg is, again, so creative, so beautiful. And there's a lot of eyes on her all the time. People love watching Meg Thee Stallion. People love engaging with her. Oh, shit, y'all, I'm dropping stuff. Engaging with her content on social media. Like, people love Money Meg, right? And so, first of all, I think that Meg, I feel like her team don't always choose the best lead singles for the album. Again, she is a risk taker. But as far as album sales are concerned, she always takes the risk of like not choosing what would be the strongest lead single to introduce the album a lot of times. And that takes away from the rollout. What other notes did I write? She's not letting the lead single either cook long enough, or she's letting it cook too long. So in the issue of Megan, I feel like she released the album a little bit in a rushed fashion because she was on tour, I believe. When it came out, she was still on tour. And she didn't release the album before tour, which is usually a really bad mistake to make as an artist. You usually want to release the album before the tour starts, to kind of give you time to let it marinate, right? On the listener's ear. Or she released it too close. I can't tell you right now because I'll have to look it up. But I think she released it either too close or while she was still on tour, so she didn't let it marinate this time around. Or she'll release the single and the album doesn't come out until like months and months and months later. So like that timing, that time frame that is like very particular to her fan base is something that it seems like she's struggling with as well. Now, this third one has less to do with Megan and more to do with her management. Again, if you watch the documentary, it was not a lot of changing of hands, but Meg did have, you know, people coming on and off of her team as she was trying to figure out this new dynamic of not having her mom as her manager anymore. And so she's either being overmanaged or undermanaged, and I don't know which one is actually happening. Even after watching the documentary, I can't really tell which one is happening, but they haven't found the balance between Meg Thee Stallion's raw ideas and creative prowess, and then the polishing from the industry standards and the OGs that she's managed by. Because even though Meg is is technically a individual artist, you know, she's not particularly bogged down to any one label. She opened her own business and she, you know, releases music under her own label, but she is managed by Roc Nation and has a distribution deal with one of the biggest conglomerates in the music industry. And so she still has the support of like the industry standard without being like beholden to the industry standard in the same way that you would see like a traditional artist. And so with that, I think they have not found the balance of like how to help her execute her raw ideas, because they are her raw ideas, so she's allowed to do whatever she wants to, but also using that conglomerate that has access to the industry standard to help her bring her raw ideas to life and polish them, because the polishing is so very important, right? And so if they're over managing her, it means they're taking away from her raw ideas and putting too much spin on it. If they're under managing her, it means that they're not helping her polish enough and just letting her kind of like, you know, do whatever comes to mind. And it's taken away from the finished project, you know, as a collective. And another thing that I noticed is that, you know, her style team is missing the mark as far as her rollout is concerned. And I'll use Sabrina Carpenter as an example, because Sabrina Carpenter, Billie Eilish is another girl, Doechii is another girl, right? They do such a good job of making everything that they do about the rollout, right? And so if let's use the Metamorphosis Meg as an example, because that's the last one example that I gave y'all. If the theme was going to be like this anime, etc., etc., every time we see you, I'm not saying she got to be in a full cosplay, but it should be on theme, right? Like the same way we see Law Roach work with like Zendaya, and she's like on a press tour for a movie. Every time we see Zendaya in public, even when she's dressed down, it's somehow the tone of the fashion relates back to the movie she's in currently, that she's doing like the media press for. Same thing with like Doechii. She just released Alligator Bites Never Heal. And every time you saw her, even at New York Fashion Week, it was still on theme with the mixtape that she just released. The outfits, the hair, the makeup, everything you do from the moment you start the rollout until you start to either transition into going on tour, or, you know, the hype kind of dies down and you kind of go back into hiding to start working on another project. I hate to say it, but your entire essence should be surrounded by, you know, the themes and the looks of that album rollout. And I did a video on Sabrina Carpenter. Check it out on my page. Her team did a phenomenal job at that. Every time you saw her, she was in this pretty pink, almost modern pinup look. Every single time you see Sabrina Carpenter, her makeup, her outfit, her hair is a symbolism of the overarching theme of her album. And I feel like if Meg did better at cohesion, her style and makeup team could do a really good job, a better job of making all of her, you know, outward presence be surrounded by this album release, so that every time you see her, it creates this brand recognition for this new album. But Megan Act 1 and 2 has a little bit of anime, it has a little bit of down south music, it has a little bit of rock undertone. It's too much going on one album, and so there's no central focus to create that brand recognition for each individual music project. I say the most cohesive one since Good News was probably Traumazine. You know, cohesively, Traumazine was probably the most cohesive message-wise, but then sonically, it was kind of all over the place. And so I think that those two things are kind of going hand in hand, and they're working against Meg in a lot of ways, unfortunately. That's just my opinion. And then the last thing, this is my last point of why I think Meg's music isn't landing the way, you know, her core fan base would hope it would at this point. Because we buying, we support, and I'm streaming regardless, you know, of these opinions. I'm going to always support Meg Thee Stallion. She's one of my favorite rappers of her generation. The variation of flow. Now, I know Meg Thee Stallion switches up her flow because I listen to her music actively, but she's having a hard time beating the allegations. Okay, my girl is having a hard time beating the same flow allegations, right? And I'm not saying she uses the same flow. I think Meg Thee Stallion has maybe like 6 or 7 different flows and cadences that she mix and matches and move around a lot. But it always comes with that down south twang on it. And I think that's why a lot of people mistake it for her just using the same flow all the time. But sometimes her music does sound like the same, which I don't think is a bad thing completely, because you want to have a sound like that's, you know, kind of, you know, specific to you. But I can see why a lot of people say that Meg Thee Stallion has the same flow. I can see why they say it. My critique of Meg Thee Stallion's flow isn't so much that she has the same flow. My critique is more that Meg be rapping fast when she should be rapping slow, and she be rapping slow when she should be rapping fast. And it's funny because I support her music wholeheartedly. I still listen to all her shit. I still bump all Meg Thee Stallion shit. But in my opinion, I feel like sometimes I'll hear a song and I'll be like, Meg, you should have rolled this beat a little slower. Or I'll hear a song and I'll be like, this was the beat where you was supposed to be rapping fast, how you was rapping fast in the other song. And I think that kind of plays into the allegations of Meg never switching up her flow, which again, I don't completely agree with, because I think Meg switches up her flow quite often. She'll give you like 3 or 4 different flows in the same song, which I think is a huge talent. Like, not everybody can do that, but I think that gets lost sometimes in translation, again, because there's so much going on each project that is eating away at her just a tad bit. And sometimes she be riding the beat too hard. Like, altogether, like just riding it a little too hard. You know what I'm saying? Like, if you giving us a little soft demure song, girl, you riding this motherfucker like and it's like, Meg, slow down, girl. We ain't going nowhere. Like, let's do a little foreplay first, girl. Like, like, sometimes Meg's gonna be giving us enough foreplay. She be getting straight to it. I'm like, damn, bro, we ain't going nowhere. Like, you know what I'm saying? We here for the song. Stink about it. Slow down. You know what I mean? Like, slow down, stink. Like, we ain't going nowhere. We ain't going nowhere. And so, in conclusion, I personally think that Meg Thee Stallion is one of the strongest artists in her class. I think she's a phenomenal rapper. I think she's absolutely gorgeous. I think that she has the ability to have a long-lasting and, you know, prosperous career. I think the longevity for Meg is absolutely there. I just think in a lot of ways she's robbing herself because she hasn't figured out exactly how to make all these things work without the support of her mother. And I do completely relate to that. I lost my mom in 2020. I had to pull the plug on her as well. And that did impact my personal life. It impacted my career. It impacted so many things because my mom was such a huge support system. So in that way, I absolutely relate to Meg. And, you know, I can continue to send my prayers and my condolences to her for the loss of both her parents and her grandmother. And I hope that, you know, with time and with therapy and the support of people who genuinely love her, that she's able to find a way to make this thing work for her without having her mom here. Because she is a true talent and a superstar. And I knew from the first time I heard Stally freestyle. And I remember being in the car in my little Honda Accord in college, and I played the song for my friends. I'm like, y'all, I heard this freestyle. Yo, y'all gotta hear this. Y'all gotta hear this. And they was like, ooh, I don't know, girl. She sound kind of like a man. And her voice is real deep. And I'm like, nah, y'all, she's a superstar. Like, you gotta go home and watch the video. And I was telling my friends, like, go home and watch the video. Like, this girl has it. She is a superstar, and she's so hungry, and you can see it in every move that she make. She's hungry for this, and she's gonna go really far. And I could see it early in Meg's career, and I never want her light to dim. I never want her light to dim. And so I want her to be able to fine tune these very small things that I think would make all the difference in her career. You know what I mean? And I want her creative ideas to truly shine for what they are, because I think she's such an artsy girl and such a creative girl and such an intelligent woman. And I know that she has it in her to keep that top 3 spot. You know what I mean? Long term. And I want her to have classics. And I want her to have these albums that kind of resonate with people for generations and generations to come. She's capable, right? But it would just take a little bit of fine tuning to get her there. And I also think that, like, if we just being 100% honest, y'all, it's really, really, really hard to lean into your creativity when so many people around you are just trying to take away from you. And again, I recommend that everybody goes to watch her documentary, because I think it gives so much perspective on the things that Meg has gone through that brought her to where she is today. Who she is as a person deep down, and how sensitive she is, and how she dealt with all the abuses that she faced. I think it's just so important, and I think that it rehumanized her in a way that she struggled with for so long in the media, because people were just constantly treating her like she wasn't a person. And, you know, that documentary for sure gave me perspective on Meg, and it honestly helped me with the notes that I have for this video, because I'm like, oh, that's why she's struggling. Like, granted, I always recognized that she was probably struggling with complicated grief at the loss of her mother. I always recognized that because I dealt with complicated grief. But I think that the documentary just put into perspective the way that it impacted her, you know, her creative processes as well. And the thing is like, again, Meg has access. She's a superstar. She has access. She's like your fave rapper. The industry loves her. She's an industry favorite. So she has access to all the things she needs to take herself to the next level, right? Like, even in the documentary, you see she's working with people like Lorianne Gibson and Law Roach, and, you know, people that absolutely can help her bring to life her creative vision. Just as an example, when she did was it Jimmy Fallon or Saturday Night Live? I think it was the Saturday Night Live, where she did the anxiety performance, and she cried on stage because she, you know, she was feeling like, you know, overwhelming emotions, you know, singing about her mom. I mean, yeah, rapping about her mom. And Law Roach had, you know, helped her bring to life that theme of, like, you know, the beauty pageant, where they were wearing all the sashes that talked about the experiences that, you know, young women are going through. And, you know, her up there performing at the beauty pageant. And it was such a cute theme, and it was very on brand for that song. And so I think that Meg absolutely has the access that she needs to be able to bring these things to life. I just think that it just needs a little bit of fine tuning. That's all. Because it's not to compare, but like when you look at the other girls in her class, they may be, you know, it may be other areas it's areas that all the girls are struggling in my opinion. But I rank Meg Thee Stallion up there with like Doja Cat, if I'm being honest with you, as far as talent is concerned. And Doja Cat don't have no problem moving no units, honey. Doja Cat albums is going to sell, you know what I mean? And so I want Meg to have that same, you know, numerical success, because it does matter. And I want her to have those same classic albums that you can reference. Like, I can put on Doja Cat's albums and listen to them straight through, and it has this level of cohesion that's just impossible to not feel and impossible to not relate to. And I think that Meg just needs a little bit of fine tuning to get there. She is obviously just stupid successful, right? Like, booked and busy. Our girl is not hurting for nothing, and that's the way we want it to be, right? You gotta drown. Amen. Woo! Woo! You know, you gotta add a little hydration back. You know what I mean? Y'all know what I mean. But yes, Meg is absolutely over those like first early on thresholds that you gotta kind of overcome when you're a new artist. But I just don't want her career to stagnate because of these very small things that I think are really impacting the way her music is landing. And then also her public perception has played a huge role. But I think that in a lot of ways, the moves that she has been making in the last year or two, with going on tour and, you know, her public appearances, her interviews, and the ways that she has like been, you know, it's a shame that this girl has had to rehumanize herself to people when she's clearly a fucking human being, but she's had to like go about this way of like rehumanizing herself that I think is kind of helping with her public perception. And I think that does play a role in the way people have engaged with her releases over the last couple of years. So I hope that with this, you know, documentary, hold on, y'all, I'm always dropping stuff. Give me 1 second. I do hope that with like the release of her documentaries and all of that, that she's really able to get over this like thing that's just like following her around that I hate. Like that I hate that this thing is just like on her, you know, because she's a phenomenal artist. So we gonna say a prayer for Meg, for her mental health and for her career to continue to have longevity, because I personally, just think Meg is such a talented woman. She just knocks it the fuck out of the park. And the way she relates to her fans, the way she loves her fans, and it's beautiful to see her growth. I also think she blew up very fast, so it didn't give her the time to really like sit with the newfound success mixed with all the changes in her personal life. And so those things definitely play a role. They definitely play a role. And I just want Meg to prosper forever and for always. I want her to be an OG in the game one day. You know what I mean? I want her to be, you know, working with the new girls, you know, when she gets older. And so just some fine tuning, y'all. Just a little tweaking. Ain't never hurt nobody. You know what I mean? I feel like artist development never ends. I feel like when you're an artist of any kind, okay, whether you're a painter, you know, a digital artist, whether you a music artist, a writer, actors and actresses, I feel like there's just always more you can learn, always more you can do to grow. And I think if Megan just masters the art of an era, like this era of Meg, it will do wonders for the stayability of her music in the public eye. Just as an example, Kendrick Lamar's Good Kid, Mad City is one of the longest standing hip hop albums on the Billboard charts. Good Kid, Mad City came out when I was in high school. I'll be 30 in 2 years, okay? And so for that long, people have been not only listening to the songs off of Kendrick Lamar's album, but listening to the album in its totality. Meaning that they are putting that album on. I don't know if I like the red, y'all. I think I like the red. That means that they are putting that album on. Oh, y'all know my makeup videos be so ghetto. But that's why I love when y'all hang with me. They're not only putting that album on, but they're actively listening to it throughout the years, letting the whole album play. He has multiple singles off that album that still chart to this day. And it came out when I was in high school, okay? And I want Meg to be able to have the same stayability because she has the same storytelling skills. She has amazing bars, triple double entendre. She gonna entendre you to death. And I just feel like with a little bit of fine tuning, Meg can definitely have that stayability in her music. And so I hope you guys enjoyed this makeup, music, and mess. And I'll see y'all next time in the next one, because child, I love music and I just have so many opinions and so many ideas and so many things that I want to say. So thank y'all for hanging with me and love y'all. Bye.